I don't usually make videos like this, but I feel like I don't have much of a choice. So many people have asked me what I'm going to do about New Mutants. Am I going to see it in a theater? And for those of you who don't know, I'm based out of the United States, Philadelphia specifically, and I've been relatively fortunate when it comes to the virus, especially when compared to people I know in New York City. But I wanted to tell you in a video, I am not going to see this movie in a theater. I think it would be irresponsible of me, and I don't want to risk my health or the health of other people in the theater or those around me. But beyond that, I am not going to talk about any big release until it's available for everyone to see safely through some home distribution method or in the presence of a vaccine. If the movie is newsworthy in some strange way, I'll probably bring it up, but no reviews or anything on the actual substance of the movie. I would not feel comfortable saying anything about a movie, good or bad, to get someone interested in seeing it, and then they go to the theater, they get sick, they spread the virus. And obviously, I'm not the biggest voice in film, YouTube, Twitter, but I still feel like I have to say I can't be a part of it, especially because of how much I've talked about New Mutants. And trust me, I love movies. I V them. They are my whole thing. And I miss new movies, man. 2 of my most anticipated movies of the year are coming out very soon. Obviously, I'm obsessed with New Mutants out of a love for the X-Men and sheer curiosity. But I also love the Kingsman franchise, except for the second movie, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a theater twice. And at least at the time of recording this video, The Kingsman is slated for a September release. Now, if you live in a country that has the virus under control, go for it. See the movies, have a ball. But I do not live in one of those countries. I live in a country where we have virtually no national plan for the virus besides just hope it goes away and it is what it is. And I have nothing but sympathy for pretty much everybody in this situation. I'm sure the casts and crews of the movies are dying for people to see them. Like, they've been working on these movies for years and deserve to have their hard work rewarded. And I am sympathetic to the fans and audiences who just want to go back to normal and do a thing that was a big part of their lives before all this happened. And when we're talking about the movies, most of all, I am sympathetic to the theater owners and staff. After all, they need to pay rent and feed their families. Many theaters, specifically independent theaters, probably won't make it through this whole crisis. And again, I wish we lived in a world where the government would help these businesses out, increase social programs to keep businesses and people afloat. Some are. Those programs exist in some capacity, but it's clearly not enough. And I'm not betting on that changing anytime soon. And I understand that theaters are doing everything they can short of closing to keep people safe. There's social distancing. They are requiring masks. They are cleaning the seats, ventilating the theaters. The theaters are trying, but most theater chains let you take the mask down to eat, which I don't know about you, but I do constantly during a movie. And plus, I don't expect someone, whether it be a manager or more likely a 16-year-old making minimum wage, to watch everyone during the entire movie to make sure they keep their masks on and then kick people out who take the masks off. There are people who just refuse to wear masks, and I 100% believe they will go to theaters and take their masks off the minute they think they're not being watched. I don't think that's anywhere near a majority of people, but it only takes a few bad actors to get everyone sick. But there are other ways to support theaters. Buy gift cards if you can. You can use them in the future once it's safe for you and the staff. Buy popcorn if they're selling it. That's one of my favorite parts about going to the movies anyway. And also, if another YouTuber or critic does a video, talks about these movies, that is totally up to them. This is their job too, especially for people whose main content is reviews of current movies. I don't always make a video about whatever comes out as it comes out. I sometimes try to if I have an interesting idea, as it can help exposure for the video, but I try not to rush it, and it isn't something I'm known for. Although I am pretty into X-Men movies for obvious, excellent reasons, but still, not my traditional channel video. But I understand why other people are doing it. I just can't. We don't know enough about this disease to say much for certain at all. We don't know enough about spread. There is constantly new information coming out about how long it lasts in the air or how long it can stay on a surface, which is a good thing, more information. With more time, we will understand it better and we will be able to protect ourselves better. But right now, I don't believe we know enough to say what is safe. So I think it's tough for you to even say you know the risks because we don't know what that level of risk is depending on what you're doing. And maybe you're thinking, well, I know that there is a risk in not knowing the risk, and I'm willing to take that risk too. Fair enough. But we also don't have a lot of info about long-term side effects. This could be a lot worse than your usual flu. So far, survivors have reported persistent shortness of breath, neurological conditions like headaches and dizziness. There are some people that believe it may cause other problems that I don't want to mention here to avoid demonetization, but those ones. There are even reports like this one in Forbes of people losing their hair. So even if you're okay with the risks of catching it that we know of now, we don't know what the full extent of catching it even means in the long term. And that is if you survive, which also isn't a guarantee. So I'm not psyched when I hear people like Josh Boone, the director of New Mutants, saying things like, the last act of the movie was designed to be seen on big screens, like IMAX screens, like it has a massive bear in it and crazy sound design. And I do think people should be going to the movies. If they can go to a house party with 700 people without masks on, they can put on a mask and go to a movie and maybe get their rocks off in a more productive way. And I think that as long as they're following the rules they're supposed to be following, it's safer than an airplane or a restaurant, which we don't know if it's safer than an airplane or a restaurant. Like, restaurants can have fresh air by opening windows, a thing movie theaters do not have, and airplanes have pretty sophisticated ventilation systems as opposed to movie theaters. And B, I don't think the fact that 700 people are doing something very stupid and very possibly illegal justifies people going to movies. Again, I understand why people want to, but I don't think that makes it okay for us to endorse it and ignore the obvious risks. Two things can be dangerous and unnecessary at the same time. So I'm not psyched to hear filmmakers endorse going to the movies. They are not doctors. Right now, the doctors are saying that movie theaters are incredibly dangerous. I know this is tough to hear. And to be honest, if this happened a year ago, before Endgame was released, this would be a lot more difficult for me to say, since I don't think I've ever wanted to see a movie in theaters that badly. And man, that experience was amazing. To be fair to Josh Boone, he summed that up too pretty well in the same interview. He says, I even found watching the sort of more intimate moments earlier in the movie to be sort of almost more magical in a movie theater. I think it brings people together, even if they're socially distanced. Seeing Cap catch Thor's hammer was a truly awesome cinema experience. I will never forget it, but it was not worth dying for or inadvertently killing other people for. And let's remember, there are actual safe ways to see this movie. I might see New Mutants at a drive-in. There are a few by me, and I'll sacrifice a day in my car waiting in line to see New Mutants or Tenet or The Kingsman safely. It does kind of depend on the bathroom situation, but if you don't drink a ton of water beforehand and during, you could probably avoid needing to use the restroom. That's something everybody will kind of have to think about on their own. But I'm not going to give opinions about the movies until everyone can see it safely, either in the presence of a vaccine or on Disney Plus or HBO or by renting it at home or something. No reviews, no small change videos, not until it's safe. And the good news is, that might be soon. I have a feeling when something like Tenet or New Mutants or Kingsman bombs, they'll give you the opportunity to rent it at home real quick. This is just a guess, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's within a month or even less. So it isn't even necessarily a long wait. We've waited, checks notes, 2 extra years for New Mutants. What's another month? And I don't want it to seem like I want every movie to get immediately thrown on Disney Plus either. I had a really good Twitter exchange with Griffin Newman, who plays Arthur on The Tick, about this. If a studio wants to delay a movie because they want it to be shown on the big screen, so it can have a bigger cultural moment and potentially make more money, or just because they generally believe it looks and sounds better, that is totally up to them, and I don't think we should demand they release Black Widow or whatever before they want to. I hope we see a few of those movies eventually, but I understand things from that perspective. I think about it like this. If there were shark attacks, if sharks killed at least 170,000 people this year in the US, I definitely wouldn't recommend you go surfing. But it would also be weird if I made a video about how much I loved it when I went surfing, because you might see the video and be convinced that it's worth it to go surfing, even if I make it very clear in my video that it is not. I don't want one of my videos or tweets to convince someone to put themselves and their communities in danger. It isn't even honestly that great of a metaphor, at least when it comes to surfing, because you're taking a risk, but only you and the lifeguard are actually in danger. People who are aware of the risk. The shark can't secretly follow you home and attack your grandmother, but that's what asymptomatic spread is, and that's why this is so dangerous. If only there were a metaphor. If only there were some movie that were, I don't know, probably about a kid who gets attacked by, oh, I don't know, an evil demon bear spirit thing. And then she inadvertently brings the bear to a school, and the bear puts everyone else in danger. She would probably do anything to avoid getting in contact with the bear in the first place, including, especially, going to movies, even though she really misses him, because it's just the right thing to do. But hey, unfortunately, to my knowledge, no such movie exists. I mean, you know, there's an entire book about that story. It's called The New Mutants, which, if the present day Batman and Suicide Squad reboots are any indication, that's what this movie will be called in 5 years. And you can read that book from the safety of your own home. And you get to support your local comic book shop. It is a win-win. So, do that instead. That's all I got. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.